Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and today we're going to be taking a quick break from reviewing movies to talk about something I just got recently. What did I get? These two bad boys. What is this exactly, you must be wondering? Well, I'll rule one thing out right out of the gate. They are not weapons of mass destruction. As much as it might seem like it, they are not weapons of mass destruction. Instead, inside these two bags are a large stack of movies that have been given to me by a very good friend of mine. So if you're watching this video, I sincerely thank you. This is very much appreciated. Basically for this video, I'm just going to go through some of the movies that my friend has given me, talk about them at length if I've seen them, talk about whether I like them or not, and yeah, just keep it chill, you know? I'm not going to go all mellow on you, don't worry, and I will be back to my regular schedules. I've just seen Pet Sematary, so I'm just taking a wee break while I write the script, and this is just like a wee fun thing to do while I do that, so let's get started. I think I'm going to go through this bag first to see what exactly is in it. First up out of the pile is South Park, Bigger, Longer and Uncut. I have seen this film. I've seen it quite a few times in fact, and I'm a big fan of it. I'm quite a fan of the show South Park, so I do really like it. I think it's very funny. I think it's got great songs. I love the humour in it. It's really vulgar and really crude, and as you can see here, it just managed to get away with a 15. How it did that, I am not sure. Because this movie is filthy. Like, really fucking filthy. I genuinely mean it. Like, it's really filthy, but it's very funny as well at the same time. I like it a lot, so yep, good film. Definitely like it, and I look forward to watching it again. I really do hope they release it on Blu-ray someday, because it would be quite nice to see the South Park movie in high definition, maybe with some actual extras. That'd be pretty nice, you know? Because this DVD, it's a little bare bones, I must admit. Monster House. Telling you the truth, I've never actually seen this film. I am aware of it, I'm aware it exists. The only thing I've really seen of it is a couple of trailers, and I think I saw a wee clip of it in class one time. But that's really my exposure to the film. I've never seen it all the way through, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna make of it. I haven't really heard many good things or bad things about it. Like, you know, it's not Toy Story or Shrek, but at the same time, it's not Shark Tale or Chicken Little, so maybe this will be quite good. Up next in the pile is David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. Again, I'm a pretty big fan of David Cronenberg, but I must admit, I haven't actually gotten around to watching all of his films, and unfortunately for me, this is one of the films I haven't quite gotten around to watching. I do really want to watch it though. I mean, I've heard very good things about it. I've seen the trailer for it quite a few times, and it does look very, very interesting, especially with Jeremy Irons playing these two twins. Definitely looks like it's going to be quite good. I'm looking forward to watching it. The Witches of Eastwick, which I've heard about, and I've watched wee bits and pieces of it, but I've never watched the whole thing. Like, I've heard it's kind of like an 80s classic. Not really an 80s classic per se, but it is sort of one of those films that's fondly remembered from that era, and I have to admit there is a part of me that's really looking forward to watching, especially with the cast. I mean, just look at it. Jack Nicholson, Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer, and you also got George Miller directing, so how can you go wrong? Well, let's hope I don't go wrong. I mean, I'm a big George Miller fan. I mean, I love Mad Max, I love Babe, so I'm looking forward to watching it. Another one that I've never gotten around to watching, unfortunately, but I really do want to watch, is the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which, again, I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I've never watched the whole thing. I do want to watch it, though. I'm really looking forward to getting around to actually watching it if I get the time. And this is a film that I've never actually heard about before. It's called Shiver. I've never even heard about this film until now. Like, it's sort of, I suppose, Pan's Labyrinth and The Orphanage, it's a Spanish haunted house film. It's sort of made in the same vein as those two films, so again, looking forward to watching it. Now here's another one I've never watched before, and again, this is the first time I think I'm gonna be watching it. It's Borderland. Yeah, it's Borderland, isn't it? really gruesome cover art, isn't it? I mean, it looks really damn gruesome. As you can see here, it's rated 18, so I reckon it's going to be quite a bloody affair. And here's a film I've heard, but for whatever reason or another, I've never gotten around to watching. And I do want to watch it again. It's another one that I've heard about, but I've never watched, The Host. Again, I've heard very good things about it. I've heard it's quite good, I've heard it's funny, I've heard it's quite creative and clever and suspenseful, and I'm generally a really big fan of monster movies, so I think this will be up my alley. I really hope it is. I'm looking forward to watching it. And next up is a film that I already have. I think I have the 2-disc special edition DVD of it. It's Oldboy. This movie needs no introduction. I mean, you've probably heard of it. It's a very good film. I really like it. Do want to watch it again though. I haven't really watched it in a while. Here's another one I've never heard of until now, and that is A Hijacking. I've, again, never really heard about it, and I'm curious to see how it'll turn out. Next up is, it feels like some of these boxes are empty, but I can assure you they're not. It's called 13 Game of Death. It's from the makers of Chocolates and On Bak, which I reckon gives you a good idea of what it is. It's like another Asian martial arts film that's very violent, and I do have a thing for that sort of, subgenre. I do tend to really like martial arts films. I'm a big fan of the Raid movies after all, so yeah, definitely look forward to watching it. So up next is a film called Shudder, which I've heard about it. I think it was made in America. There was an American version made of it, which, yeah, I've heard it's shit. This version I've never really heard about, so curious. I'm genuinely quite curious. Up next is The Haunting. I've heard about this movie quite a lot. I've heard it's very good. I've never gotten around to watching it. Unfortunately, I'm a little more familiar with the version with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and also features Owen Wilson getting his head chopped off, which, yeah, it's pretty shit. But this movie, I am looking forward to watching it, because, I do really like, haunted house stories, especially ones which are quite psychological in tone, that feature sort of like an element of gothic horror to it, and it's also directed by Robert Weiss, so I reckon it will be quite good. I'm looking forward to watching it. And here's another one I've been really wanting to see for a long time. It's Wait Until Dark, which has Audrey Hepburn, Alan Arkin, and Richard Crenna. It's sort of like an early version of Don't Breathe, basically, except the blind character is the main protagonist. And Terence Young directed it, the guy who directed some of the early James Bond films, which is quite interesting, I must admit. I'm really curious to watch this because, again, some of the early Bond films did have some pretty damn good moments of suspense, and I think I do have to attribute that to Young, especially in, I think, Dr. No, which is a really eerie scene with that, where Bond's about to be poisoned by a spider, so maybe that's probably rubbed off on him when I made this. Looks good. I'm looking forward to watching it, definitely. And here's another one I've never really heard about. It's called Dorm, and judging by the back, it sounds pretty creepy. I'm definitely looking forward to watching it, even though it's probably not that high on my list of priorities of what I want to watch, but I'll get around to watching it sometime, I guess, And next up is another film that I've never really heard about before. It's called The Night Eats the World. And judging by the back, it says it's sort of like 28 Days Later meets A Quiet Place, which sounds very promising. I really like both movies, so yeah, definitely looking forward to watching this one now. And although I know a lot of these films are probably quite good, there's also a couple ones that are just stinkers, and unfortunately, that would probably sum up Macaulay Culkin's The Good Son. And again, I've not actually watched this movie. This is just going by what I've heard. I've heard not very many good things about this film. I've heard it's pretty bad. It's not that good, but hopefully I'll find something redeeming about it. And here's another film that's quite popular from where I belong, Northern Ireland and Ireland. But for whatever reason or another, I've never really gotten around to watching it until now. That is The Young Offenders, which I believe has just recently been adapted into a TV series that's proven quite popular. And again, regrettably, I've just never really gotten around to watching this film until now, but Now that I have the DVD, I don't really have that much of an excuse. Don't Look Now, which I've only seen bits and pieces of, but I've liked what I've seen of it so far. Like, it's very unsettling, it's very, you know, ominous in tone, and again, I do really want to watch it, you know? Like, it's meant to be quite good, I've heard. And up next is another film that I already have. I already have it on Blu-ray, but here is John Wick. And yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the John Wick franchise, as previous videos of mine have probably, you can probably guess from some of my previous videos. I've seen the first John Wick. I do really like it, even if I do prefer the second one a wee bit more, but it feels a wee bit weird having this on DVD and Blu-ray, but I won't complain. I mean, I'll happy enough to watch it either way. This is another one that a friend of mine had told me about before giving it to me. It's called Paper House. It's made by Bernard Rose, who went on to make Candyman. And again, from what I've heard of it, it sounds very promising. Like, it's definitely one I'm looking forward to watching when I get the chance. Pulse, which is a film I have heard a lot about. Again, I am looking to sort of get into J-pop, or not J-pop, you know, Japanese horror films, so hopefully this will be like a good sort of introduction to it. I believe Wes Craven was attached to remake it at one point, but then he dropped out, and apparently that was shit, so go figure. You dodged a bullet right there, Wes Craven. Good on you. Mimic, which, again, I'm a pretty big Guillermo del Toro fan, but for whatever reason, I've just not really gotten around to watching this film until now. Like, I do want to watch it, like, because I've heard it's decent, and the only thing I've really heard about is that the Weinsteins really screwed with it. I mean, that's probably a bad thing to say, because, you know, the Weinsteins, like, fuck them. The Lion King, you've all probably seen it, you've all probably heard about it, you're all probably cursing that upcoming remake, and I'll definitely get around to watching it again once the new one comes out, because, I mean, it's The Lion King. I mean, I have no excuse not to watch it. Dark Remains, which, I have to admit, it's another one I've never really heard about, but again, looking at the back of it, it seems pretty promising. I'm curious to see how it'll turn out. The next one is a Blu-ray, and it's of the film Hex. Made in 1980, and again, it's not a film I've ever really watched. Like, I haven't even heard about this film until now, but I am curious, and I haven't really heard my friend talk about it either, which is definitely quite curious. But yeah, it does look pretty interesting. I mean, the cover art looks pretty damn awesome when you think about it. I mean, it looks damn creepy. Itchy the Killer, which, if you're a big cult movie fan, you've probably heard a lot about this. Unfortunately, this is the version of the film that I believe it's been cut by several minutes, because, again, the BBFC do have a real hang-up about sexual violence, so I can understand why they'd probably have issues with this film. Haven't actually watched it yet. I'm really curious because, again, from what I've heard about it, it sounds insane. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it turns out, but even if it is sort of a slightly censored version, I'll definitely get around to watching it some nights. Here's another one I've never really heard about until now. That is the Stanford Prison Experiment, which has a great cast in it. I mean, you got Billy Crudup, Ezra Miller, Ty Sheridan, Olivia Thirlby, who you might remember from the Dread remake. And I don't know, like, it's just not a film I've ever really heard about. Like, I mean, it might be good, it might be quite good, so I'm curious to see how it turns out. Now here's a film I have most certainly heard about, and that is Angel Hearts. I've never watched it, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Like, I've heard very, very, very good things about it, so here's to hoping it delivers. I'm looking forward to watching it. I don't know when I'll watch it, but I don't know, I'll get around to it eventually, you know? And here's a film that I remember hearing about a lot back in the day. 30 Days of Night. I remember I was really hoping I would get around to seeing this film. I was only about 10 when it came out. I was only about 10 or so when it first came out. I was quite young, so naturally I wasn't going to be able to see it in the cinema. But again, it's nice that I finally have the DVD, so I'll definitely get around to watching it when I get the chance. I mean, from what I've heard, it's quite good. One thing you might have noticed is that I have a lot of horror films that I was given. the odd comedy, the odd animated film, but they're all mostly horrors. But this is a real odd duck altogether. Calendar Girls. Thanks, I guess? Thank you? I'm just kidding, like, I mean, I have nothing against this movie. I mean, it looks likeable enough. I'm curious to see how it'll turn out. Like, I haven't watched it yet. I do remember it being advertised a lot back when I was about 6, so who knows? I think I'll probably quite like it. Gundam Haunted Asylum live action movie. Wow. That's a mouthful for a title, if you ask me. I'm really curious to see how it'll turn out. Again, I've never even heard about this movie until now, so again, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I'm looking forward to getting around to watching it. Delicatessen, which is a film that I've heard about quite a lot. I've heard very good things about. It's directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, whom you probably remember from Amélie. He also directed the rather lamentable Alien Resurrection, which, yeah, definitely has its problems, but the direction in that film is pretty spot on. I'll give it credit for that. Definitely looking forward to watching it, because from what I've seen of it, it looks really damn weird. It looks like my kind of weird, so here's to hoping it delivers on that. And up next is another film that I've heard quite a lot about, and I've just never really gotten around to watching. I Saw the Devil. Again, it does look pretty damn interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to watching it, but again, it's just, for whatever reason, I've just never really gotten around to seeing it. It's directed by the guy who made The Good, the Bad, the Weird, which I've sadly never watched either. But again, it's one I'm definitely looking forward to watching once I get the opportunity. I mean, it does look pretty damn promising. And near the end of the bag, the first one. This is only half the fucking thing, so be prepared. We're only halfway there, unfortunately. But up next is another one I've heard quite a lot about, and it definitely has a very fascinating cover. The Beast. Like, I honestly thought the poster for Nymphomaniac was kind of silly, but this is, like, I honestly don't know what to make of this, but I'm not sure how this is gonna turn out. Like, I'm pretty hit or miss when it comes to art films. Like, there's definitely a lot I like, and there's also a lot I don't particularly like, so I'm not sure what I'll make of this one. Like, it's said to be quite graphic. I mean, the BBFC, I believe, banned it for several years, so here's to hoping I'll get something out of it. And up next is Final Destination 5. Final Destination is one of those franchises, I feel like the films often kind of blur together. They all feel very repetitive, for lack of a better words. I still kind of enjoy them, weirdly enough, but they are pretty repetitive when you get down to it. From the director of Ghostbusters 2016 comes The Heats. A film which, I have to admit, I quite enjoy. I quite like this film. Like, it's pretty funny. Its action could be better, but if anything, I do really like the interactions between Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. I think the two have great chemistry with each other, and if it weren't for the two of them, the film probably wouldn't work quite as well, I must admit. Like, it's one of those movies where you feel like it really does benefit from the two leads. If you didn't have them there, the film would just kind of fall apart. But again, it's a film I do enjoy, so go figure. And this is one I've definitely been looking forward to watching. House. I have heard so many good things about this film. I've heard this film is absolutely bonkers. I really, really look forward to watching it once I get the opportunity. But it definitely, again, it's on Blu-ray. I'm looking forward to watching it. I mean, it's jam-packed with extras, and I'm not sure if Arrow did it. I don't think, but it's sort of like an Arrow kind of Blu-ray, and they're usually very spot on when it comes to Blu-ray. So I'm looking forward to watching this. It looks friggin' mad. Like what I've seen of it, it looks insane. So here's to hoping it actually delivers on that. So now we're on to bag 2, and bear with me on this one. Shikoku. I've never really heard about this one either. I think it's a psychological thriller of sorts. Like, again, looking at the cover, definitely, I'm not really sure what it's gonna be. I'm curious to watch it. Hope it's good. Bangkok Haunted, which, again, I've never really heard about until now, but looking at the back of it, it does look pretty interesting. I was mentioning Wes Craven a wee bit, and this is one of his more forgotten efforts, The Serpent and the Rainbow. I mean, when we think of Wes Craven, we think of the likes of Scream, The Hills Have Eyes, The Last House on the Left, Nightmare on Elm Street, and all them ones. But this one always seems to fall under the radar. I've never really watched it, but it does look pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how it'll turn out. And The Last Exorcism, again, I've heard about it. I've heard the movie's good up until its ending, which I've heard is meant to be terrible. Here's a film that I've watched quite a few times, and I do remember enjoying, but it's not really one that I've felt like going back to a lot, and that is Wanted, which I have to admit, like, it's a film I do trashily enjoy. Like, it's really, you know, in your face. It's very sort of, you know, cynical, you know, zero fucks given kind of film, and I have to admit, that's kind of why I enjoy it. Like, it's a little mean-spirited, and it's really, like, I don't know, like, it's not a film I've watched in a while, but I do look forward to watching it again. I mean, it's worth seeing just to see James McAvoy smack Chris Pratt with a lap with a keyboard. Yes, Professor X hitting Star-Lord with a fucking computer keyboard. I mean, that's gotta be worth something. Another one that I've never heard about until now, and that is Long Weekend. Not much to say about this one. It looks pretty promising. Again, it's Australian New Wave, and I do have a bit of a fascination with Australia and the movies that they made in the 70s, you know, the likes of Mad Max and all, so I'm looking forward to it. Up next is another one called Nocturne, which, again, I've not really heard about. I haven't really much to say about this one, but it does look pretty creepy, and I'm looking forward to watching it. Though I must say the description on the back is very, very detailed. Very strong language, strong threats, gore, sex, nudity, drug references. I don't think I've seen a BBFC description this detailed since Red Sparrow. A film? I think I have heard about it. I don't think I've really gotten around to seeing it, but again, it does look pretty interesting, and curious to see it. Miss Violence. Again, I have to admit, the title of the film makes it sound like an action movie, but it seems more like a really weird art house film, which I'm definitely going to watch once I get the opportunity, but I don't know, like, it looks pretty weird. I'll definitely give it a chance, though. Here's one I've been wanting to watch for a while, but for whatever reason or another, I've just never really gotten around to seeing. That is Paul Verhoeven's Elle, which I'm a pretty big Paul Verhoeven fan. I really love RoboCop, you know, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and Basic Instinct. You know, I'm a big fan of his work. Elle, it basically sort of seems like a pretty cool rape and revenge type film, which does kind of appeal to me, I will admit. Up next is a film called Coherence, which is a film I always keep forgetting about. Not that I've not seen it or anything, I've just never really... I always keep, you know, it's one of those films where I'm just like, jog my memory on it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard about it. I've never watched it, but I don't know, it looks pretty promising. Definitely looking forward to watching it. Up next is Spring. I've been really curious to see what the directors of these movies are, you know, because I've been curious to get into them for quite a while. I mean, this movie definitely looks very interesting. It looks very weird, sort of visually stunning and surreal, and I like that sort of thing. The Endless, another one by the same directors. My friend has been saying this is one of the best movies of last year, so I'm definitely looking forward to watching this once I get the opportunity. Splice. Again, another one I've heard about, but I've never really gotten around to seeing. Again, it's one of those films that I think a lot of critics really liked, but audiences weren't really too keen on. I think audiences kind of hated it, but I don't know, like, it does look pretty interesting. I mean, that image is certainly very interesting. Definitely very curious about this one, I will admit. Up next is A Whistleblower with Rachel Weisz. I've heard about this film. I've heard it's very brutal. Like, my friend's been saying it's very hard to watch, but I'll definitely be the judge of that one. Up next is another film that I've heard about, but for whatever reason I've never gotten around to watching. Teeth. Yeah, I've heard about it. Like, it looks really weird, and I'm definitely curious. I mean, I really like the box art, you know, for some reason. I think it's pretty clever. I mean, I kind of like it, you know. It's pretty unique. So yeah, definitely looking forward to watching it. Up next is another one I've heard about a lot. Compliance. Again, my friend has really... he said it's quite good, but it's very disturbing. again, here, from what I've heard of it, it definitely sounds very disturbing. It sounds very unpleasant to watch, but I'll definitely get around to seeing it once I get the opportunity. Up next is another one I've never heard about, I've never watched, so My Skinny Sister. Not much to say about this one, but it looks pretty interesting. Up next is Are We Not Cats? No, there's no BBFC rating on it. I assume it's a Region 2 DVD or Blu-ray or whatnot, but looks pretty damn bizarre. I mean, this motherfucker here kind of looks a lot like Gollum, if you ask me. Another one I've never really heard about, but looks pretty interesting, The Entity. Again, not much to say about it. Paranormal Activity meets The Ring. I'll probably get around to watching it at some point. Up next is it's an animated film, The Garden of Words. Another one I've never really heard about until now, so I'll definitely check it out once I get the chance. Better watch out. I remember seeing a trailer for this film back when it came out, and being quite intrigued by it, I must admit. I definitely was kind of interested to see how it would turn out. It's sort of described as like a R-rated version of Home Alone, which I have to admit does kind of interest me a wee bit. Colin, aka the 45-pound zombie movie. Again, for a movie that looks like it cost 45 quid, it looks pretty good. I'll definitely have to give it a watch. Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark, another one I've really been wanting to watch for a while. I've seen The Lost Boys. I quite like The Lost Boys, but I've never really watched Near Dark for whatever reason. For some reason, I've just never really watched it. I do need to watch more Catherine Bigelow films, unfortunately. Up next is another one that I've heard a lot about, a lot of good about. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Yeah, this film looks pretty damn interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it when I get around to actually watching it, so here's to hoping I do. Catfish, which was made by the duo behind Nerve from 2016, which I've not seen either of these films now, but I am curious. I've heard very good things about it. I've heard it's very sort of, dark. It's meant to be a very good commentary on social media, so here's to hoping. I'm not sure. Visions of Ecstasy, which was apparently banned for many years because of blasphemy. And I'm really curious, I will admit, I'm really curious to see how I'm going to react to it. I like a good challenge, as you can tell. The Silent House. For a minute there, I kind of thought it was oh wait, yeah it is. It's the one which, I think it has Elizabeth Olsen in it. I'm not too sure. No, it's not the one with Elizabeth Olsen, actually. I think that was a remake of this film, I believe. I'm not too sure, but whatever, I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. I've heard some alright things about it. The Innkeepers, another one that I've heard a lot about, and I've heard a lot of good about. Definitely curious to watch it once I get the opportunity. And another comedy, Liar Liar. It's a Jim Carrey film that I really like. I think it's definitely one of Carrey's better films. Carrey's amazing in it. It's very funny. Not really a big fan of the last 20 minutes. I think they're a wee bit rushed. Let's face it, there's no way he could get past airport security that easily in this day and age. There's no way. Maybe in 1987 he could have done it, but definitely not today. Regardless though, I do really like Liar Liar. It's funny, Jim Carrey's amazing in it, and I also really like Jennifer Tilly in it too. She's pretty awesome in everything she's in, isn't she? What We Do in the Shadows. If you know me, if you've seen my Thor Ragnarok review, I do quite like Taika Waititi, but for whatever reason, I've just never really gotten around to seeing this one. Looking forward to it, though. Have very high hopes for it. Replace? Definitely looks very interesting now, I must admit. It's described as a stylishly viral love story, and I don't know, from the looks of it, it looks very Cronenbergian, which I'm definitely looking forward to watching this one. Roadkill? A movie I heard quite a lot about back in the day. I remember seeing trailers for it back when I was a kid, and fun fact, J.J. Abrams wrote and produced this movie. Yes, the J.J. Abrams. Not much to say about this film. I've heard it's not too bad. I'm definitely curious to see what it's like. I don't know, if anything, it's kind of sad Paul Walker's not with us. Dude, rest in peace, dude. We all miss you. And to Revenge. You might recall I actually reviewed this film back in the day, and while I'm pretty ashamed of it, I am curious to see how it holds up, like, because I do remember liking a lot of aspects about it, so I'm definitely curious to watch it again. The Void, which is a film that I've seen, and I do remember quite liking. I remember really loving the special effects in it, and like, it's a good, fun B-movie, even if it's not really that great when it comes to its characters. Like, it's fine when it comes to its characters. Like, it's definitely more of a focus on special effects and gore than, you know, telling a great story, if you ask me. But then again, I haven't watched the movie in a while. I do want to watch it again, so definitely. And up next is pretty infamous one, Irreversible. You've probably heard about this one. I mean, it's pretty infamous for its 10-minute rape scene, and it's quite infamous for its moments of violence and being very sort of like, almost like sensory overload, which I assume is just part of Gaspar Noé's style. I mean, that's sort of what he's infamous for. I mean, it's sort of, I mean, it always sort of played a wee bit like Memento, you know, telling the story backwards, and I've never actually watched it. I'm really curious to see it. Like, I'll definitely have to watch it when I get the opportunity. But yeah, Irreversible, meant to be a very stomach-churning film, and I'm not sure if that's for all the right reasons. And that's really about it. That's all the DVDs I have. I also have a couple of other ones, I think, but they don't have any boxes, and I want to take special care of them. I'll probably devote another video to them, but that's really about it. I hope you enjoyed this little relaxation segment. It's just something different as I show off my DVDs and films, you know, that I do tend to like. I hope maybe this showed you what type of films I am into. And I hope you're not too afraid of me after finding out the type of filth I like, you know? Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to follow me on social media, or check out my websites, or support me on Patreon, links are below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.